Hi all, welcome to part two of MLA, my MLA slides. In the first part we looked at the formatting of your paper and then in-text citations. And then we started to talk about the works cited page. So I'm just going to finish up, hopefully with a shorter video this time, just talking about your works cited page and how to formulate entries for that. So again, remember, this is basically what you need to include. Here's a sample from one of my papers from years ago. It's a little out of date, but you can see what it should look like, right? It's a good visual guide, right? The hanging indents, alphabetical order, no numbers or anything like that. That's basically what it should look like, more or less, okay? So, this is where we got to last time. In MLA 8, which is the most up-to-date current MLA guide, right? They go through different editions. We're up to the 8th edition of MLA. They keep making changes. I like MLA 8 a lot. They've streamlined it. MLA 7 I thought was really clunky in some ways. MLA 8, they've streamlined it and made some really smart changes. And so basically with MLA 8, there's a simplified system. It's a kind of formula. There are a possibility of about 9 pieces of information you might include in a works cited entry. You don't have to have every one of these, right? If this piece of information is not available, like if there is no specific author, you don't need to include it. You just go to the next, right? That's the way this works. It's a formula. You include these pieces of information in this order using these pieces of punctuation. So you period, period, comma, 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 period. Okay. So this is, I find it pretty easy, good way to think about it. And you just slot in information as you have it. If you have an author, okay, author, I have the title. I mean, everything has a title, so maybe a couple of these will be universal. Title, everything has a title of some kind. Title of container, right? Container just means, is it published in something else? Is it a short story published in a collection of short stories? Is it a poem collected in an anthology of poetry? Is it an essay in a textbook? Is it an essay published in a newspaper, right? That's a container. The newspaper, New York Times, or the textbook title, or the title of the poetry collection. Okay, so that's a container. Other contributors, and that just means, like, is there an editor? Is there, like, if you're using, say you're using an anthology, or an anthology of essays or poetry or something, is there a specific editor that you can include? You don't need to include everybody who's listed as a contributor on the bibliographical information page. Let me just show you that page. This is the page in a book that you want to look for bibliographical information. It's the page, it's towards the beginning. It looks like this, more or less, right? It has, this one lists an editor, project manager, designer, managing editor, production manager. But in this case, you don't have to list any of those people, because this was a book written by T. Boy, the best we could do, right? She's the author. You don't need any of these other people. If you were going to cite the art, you would want to, well, she's the artist of this book, but if there was a separate artist for the cover or something, you might want to list that. But otherwise, for the most part, if it's a single author text, you don't need to worry about any other contributors. Okay, don't get crazy doing that unless it's an anthology with an editor, or a textbook with a couple authors or something like that, right? So all the information you need for the works cited page is contained on that bibliographical information page if you're using a book, right? It's always towards the beginning. It's usually on the back side of the title page. So this has a 2-page title page. It's on the back of that before the preface and everything else. That's usually where you find the bibliographical information page. And then, so other contributors, if it's relevant, if they're editors, don't worry about it for single author texts. The version, so if it's an edition, that's only important too if you're using, if you want to highlight that. If that's in its 7th printing or something, don't worry about that. It hasn't changed over those editions. It's only if there have been changes, right? If you're using, like, say, a classic novel that's been through a number of editions, maybe you'd want to include that number. Also, version, we use that for periodicals sometimes, and number goes for periodicals, so journals, newspapers, and you just use whatever system they use. Different periodicals use different systems. Some use, like quarterly, or they'll have numbers, like they'll publish, I don't know, 8 issues a year, so it'll be 8.1, 8.2. Whatever they give you, you include here if it's a periodical. If it's a book, they don't have a version or numbers. Don't worry about it. The publisher, who published it, what company. So Abrams, what is it? Abrams Comic Arts for The Best We Could Do, and the publication date. We no longer include place of publication, so it doesn't matter if it's published in London or Toronto or whatnot. We don't include that. That's old MLA. And then location. So this isn't, you don't always use this. If I'm just citing that whole book, The Best We Could Do, I don't need to include a location because I'll include the page numbers in my in-text citation. If I'm including, say, an essay from a collection of essays, I need to know which pages in the anthology that essay is included so people can look it up. Or if I'm using an online source, I include the URL as location. Okay? So here's some examples, right? Single author, and in MLA we reverse the names. So this person's name is Cecily Margaret Devereux. So Devereux comes first, comma, Cecily Margaret. The title, the publisher, and UP just stands for University Press. A lot of books are published, academic books are published by university presses. You can shorten that. UP, comma, 2005, period. Books with multiple authors. So again, same first author. For subsequent authors, you reverse the name, or you don't reverse the name, I should say. So Devereux, Cecily Margaret, and Ian Jones, same information. So here's a work collected and edited book, an anthology. Here's an essay by Stephen King. So King, Stephen, the essay is called Why We Crave Horror Movies, and then it comes from this textbook. There's no editor, and then publisher, year, and the location within the book of that essay. Okay? Sorry, Maxwell's starting to be pickle. Multiple authors or multiple works by a single author. Hi there, sorry about that. I had to take a little baby soothing break. So anyways, I'll just finish up quickly. If you go through the slides, you can see a whole bunch of different examples of how you can come up with works cited entries, right? Different reasons, interviews. Again, best resource on the web is definitely the OWL at Purdue. If you just Google the OWL at Purdue, it'll take you right there. This has got guides for MLA, APA, Chicago. It's also got lots of writing material, right? So it's definitely the go-to place. Just a quick note as I finish up, if you use one of those like easy bib programs, they're okay, right? Or even if you get the citation, the Chafee Library will provide the citation for you if you click on that button. Those are good, but you need to double check to make sure that everything is correct, because even the one on the website, which is very good, meant for students, will put things in the wrong, like capitalized names and things like this. So you need to go through and double check. And if you're using the EasyBib program, I've tried some of those programs before. The thing I find is, like, by the time you put in the information they're looking for, you may as well just slot it in yourself, right? If you understand how to use this formula here, once you get this down, it gets pretty easy. And then, what I do is if I'm coming up with a citation for something, if it's a single author, it's pretty easy. I've got that down, or like something from an anthology. But if it's like, let's say, a personal interview from a what was I citing the other day? A personal interview from a podcast, right? And I was just curious, well, how do I do that? And so I did what I thought it should look like, and I double checked on the OWL at Purdue, right? Because they have examples of all these different kinds of things you can cite. And that, to me, is the best way to go to do this kind of work, right? Using EasyBib might seem easier, but really you have to do the same amount of work anyways. So I would suggest, trying it out this way, especially for your MLA assignment, and trying it out yourself, trying to learn the system. Anyways, that's it for now. Please do email me, stop by my office hours if you want to talk about it, if anything's unclear. Okay, thank you very much.